Incoming bracket!
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is obviously my latest catch-up video. This time it is for the month of July 2022. For those of you that are new to the channel, this is essentially where I talk about all the 2022 films that I saw in a certain month. In this case, obviously, the month of July 2022. Now, keep in mind, if you are expecting my in-depth thoughts about these movies, you're unfortunately not going to get them here. But that being said, I do have my in-depth thoughts on these movies on Letterboxd. You guys can check out my Letterboxd account down below. If you aren't a part of Letterboxd, I would highly recommend you get that because it is an amazing website for film buffs, film critics, and just casual audiences, and it brings everyone together. It's great stuff. This is specifically, this video is just for me to let you guys know all the movies that I saw for this month, briefly talk about them, and then give you guys my ratings for those of you that don't have Letterboxd. So, guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So kicking things off at the beginning of July, I saw Thor, Love and Thunder, which is the fourth Thor movie, and it is, I think, the 29th entry in the MCU. Not gonna lie, I was actually kind of curious about this movie because Christian Bale is someone that is a method actor, obviously, and he's very, very choosy with his roles. So that being said, I said to myself, okay, if he is going into the MCU, then he probably carefully chose this role, and it's probably something that's really good. Now, whilst I'll say this, he's good in the movie as a whole is quite disappointing. I didn't like this movie. In fact, Christian Bale's character felt like he was ripped right out of a different movie. This movie is obviously trying its darndest to be really funny, and for me, it failed on all accounts. I didn't laugh at all during this movie. It was saddened too because at this point in the MCU, I mean, I guess Thor is just like a huge goofball, and that might be something that people are able to accept, but for me, I was just kind of like, it just didn't really work. Like, okay, yeah, everything's a joke, but because everything is a joke, that means there's no stakes, and if there's no stakes, then it's kind of like, been there, done that. And that's the thing, this movie, you've seen 1,000 times done before, except this time, it's trying to be funny. Will it work for you? Depends on you as a viewer. For me, I didn't find it funny, so for me, yeah, I was disappointed by Thor, Love and Thunder. Can't say I loved it. So yeah, Thor, Love and Thunder, I'll personally be giving it a... Next up, we have Official Competition. This is a movie that all I knew going into was that it was an independent film, which alone makes me want to watch the movie. And I gotta say, after seeing it, I'm glad that I did. Not a movie for everyone. It's specifically for people that are really into like the film industry. I myself obviously am. But I liked this movie, and I liked how it kind of tackles acting, in particular blockbuster acting versus art house acting, and the two different kind of ideologies behind that. I think this movie also is quite comedic. I like the sparse sound design mixed in with the wide angle shots. This movie feels very naturalistic, from the dialogue to, again, the filmmaking aspects of this movie, and I liked that. I will say that this movie, although I like a lot of it, this is one of those movies that, unfortunately, the third act, it does kind of shoot itself in the foot, if you will. I liked that there was a certain plot thread that occurred that was quite shocking, honestly. Like, at first it was funny, and I was like, oh, wow. It was good. I really liked it. But then the movie continued, and I think that them continuing on with where that went, I think was kind of a disservice to that plot thread, because then at the very end... Again, no spoilers, but at the very end, they pretty much take away that plot thread and they kind of detract from it, like they backtrack on it. And I'm just like, oh, come on, really? Like, it was just very frustrating for me personally. I get why some people might like the last 10 minutes, but for me, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But nonetheless, I would definitely say this movie is worth your time, specifically, again, if you're really into the film industry. And that's why, for me personally, Official Competition, I will be giving a... Next up, we have Jurassic World Dominion. I hated this movie. I hated it with a passion. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this movie. If you want to know my full in-depth thoughts, check out my Letterboxd review. I don't want to go on a rant on this. That's just, I'm going to cue my star rating. Jurassic World Dominion, I gave a... So yeah, next up we have Where the Crawdads Sing. This is a movie that, it's a movie, That's for sure. This is the very definition of a Lifetime movie. And not only the execution, but the plot threads and everything and how it's executed. Because this is a movie that at its core is a mystery. But the problem is the movie doesn't even really want to focus on the actual mystery. It wants to focus on the romance. And the romance, it creates like a love triangle that in itself is very toxic. So watching this movie try to string along, having it where this woman tries to choose between these two guys are both toxic for her. It just kind of creates this dilemma of like, well, I don't care about these characters, and these characters are given horrendous dialogue. I have no clue why we're focusing on this. Why don't we focus on the actual mystery? The mystery almost doesn't even get solved. It's like the last scene where it kind of gets resolved. But it's not enough for me to say, like, yeah, watch this movie. In fact, I would say avoid this movie at all costs. Where the Crawdads saying I personally will be giving a. Next up, we have RRR. This is a movie that had been on my radar since April. In fact, one of my friends, Sergey, shout out to you, actually saw it in theaters, and he did invite me to see it with him in theaters. But at that time, I hadn't really heard of it, and I also had like some filming of my upcoming short film that I had to do, so I didn't go, especially because it was 3 hours long. But after he saw it and he reviewed it, I then started hearing a lot of buzz about the movie, and then sure enough, it went on Netflix. But again, it's 3 hours and 5 minutes, so I had to try to find time for that, and I managed to carve it over the last week, and I'm glad that I did because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It is by no means perfect, but if you're in the mood for an over-the-top superhero-esque movie that's done really well, and honestly might be the best superhero movie of the year if we're not counting the Batman, then I would definitely say watch this movie. It is a lot of fun. I can definitely see myself revisiting it. It's not perfect. It does have some issues here and there, but overall, definitely worth your time. And RRR, I personally will be giving a. Next up, we have it's also a Netflix movie similar to RRR. Well, RRR, I should say, technically it's on Netflix. It's not actually a Netflix movie, but this movie I'm about to mention is a Netflix movie. I apologize about that, but this movie is The Gray Man. I'm a big Ryan Gosling fan. The Russo brothers, they proved that with Infinity War and Endgame that they are pretty good storytellers. Pretty good, pretty good. But here with The Gray Man, this is a very calculated movie that is quite disappointing. You can clearly tell from frame one that this movie is having only one sight in mind, and that is to market to you as viewers sequels. And sure enough, as I'm filming this video, I found out yesterday that there will be sequels and there will be spinoffs. Big surprise. This is a movie that is a prime example of a Netflix counter product that is simply just trying to get you as a viewer to buy and see more of their stuff. That's it. It's a movie you put on the background. That's it. There are a dozen better action films with a similar premise that, let's face it, stand on its own. The Gray Man, it doesn't stand on its own. It really doesn't. This is a dull movie. It's not that good at all. That's it. That's it. The Gray Man, I personally will be giving a. Next up, we have Marcel, the Shell with Shoes On. This is an A24 animated film, and this was a very, very charming film. I can definitely see myself revisiting this, especially when I have kids, because the amount of charm in this movie, it's undoubtedly something that will put a smile on anyone's face. I can't see anyone watch this movie and not at least somewhat enjoy it, because it's that charming. Not perfect, do have some issues. It does have it where there are a couple endings where it's like, wait a minute, this movie's short, but I felt like it could have ended like 10 minutes before. But that being said, still quite a good movie, and I personally will be giving Marcel the Shell with Shoes On a. Next up, we have Windfall. This is a movie that I'm very late to. It came out on Netflix, I think it was May. And I like Jesse Plemons. I like Lily Collins. This is a movie that the premise itself feels very Hitchcockian. And I think that's one of the big draws to the movie. And watching it, I was engaged by that aspect, especially the score, which sounded very Bernard Herrmann-esque. I also like the cinematography, which utilized a lot of wide-angle shots. These are traits of the movie that I think were strong suits. And it's a very well-acted movie, too. Here's the problem, though. The movie loses steam by the end. And with what it's trying to do at the end, that would have required us as audiences to really care about these characters. And unfortunately, gotta be honest, we really don't. And that undermines with what they're trying to do at the end. I also just think that at the end, again, no spoilers, a character does something where they're trying to clean off a gun, but they end up cleaning it off and then putting their handprints on it anyways. And I'm like, so what was the point of that other than to show the character's incompetent? I don't know. Was kind of annoying, that aspect, but it's just, again, a movie that's competent, but it's very flawed. I can see why on Letterboxd a lot of people I follow gave it a 2 out of 5. I'm going to be a bit more generous and give it a little bit higher, but I'm also going to say that this isn't like a groundbreaking movie or not. It's a middle of the road movie, and that's why for me personally, I'll be giving Windfall a. Next up, we have Nope. So Nope is the latest Jordan Peele movie. He did Get Out and Us. I love Get Out. I think Get Out is a great movie. And Us, I liked, but it doesn't have the rewatchability value of, like, say, Get Out. Because Get Out, I've seen at least half a dozen times. Us, I've only seen once, and that was, 3 years ago in theaters. And Get Out, I gotta say, I mean, not Get Out, Nope. It's not a bad movie, but it's certainly a movie that is kind of disappointing. And I say this because it's a step down from Us. Us was good, but it kind of fell flat with the ending. And unfortunately, Nope kind of had it where the first half, it was interesting in that we get to know these characters, they're engaging, it creates an atmosphere. But the second half, I just thought that with how they went about all those elements that were built up in the first half, I just thought it didn't really do anything to it. And the ending, I also was like, huh? There's also some flashback scenes that some could argue does kind of tie into the movie, but I think it's kind of weak, honestly. For me, it was actually the weak link of the movie. But that being said, it's not a bad movie. And in a world where we get so many sequels, so many prequels, so many movies that have to create all these other sequels and universes, it is refreshing to have a movie like Nope that does stand on its own and hopefully won't get a sequel and will just stand on its own. And it's original. But I would be lying if I said that I wasn't at least a little bit disappointed. Actually, I was majorly disappointed by this movie. That's why Nope, I personally will be giving a. And last but not least, we have Vengeance. This is a B.J. Novak directed movie. I think it's actually his directorial debut. And what a directorial debut. I really liked this movie. Unfortunately, it does kind of falter in the third act, which seems to be a trend with movies on this this list that I saw for this month. But here's the thing: I feel like Vengeance is definitely a case of it's sending a message. It has a bunch of themes that it's trying to delve into, but unfortunately, it just kind of forgets about them by the end, and it tries to do something a little bit different. And although I'm all about going for something different, I just feel like with what they did, there wasn't that build up to where it was like, okay, I see why they did that. It felt very kind of uncharacteristic, honestly, especially with everything that the character was saying before. There's also a typical argument where, you know, a character that cares about other characters has a falling out, and then it's like they are no longer together, and then they have to come together in the end. I don't like that cliche. It's a comedy cliche that is in a lot of comedies. It's here too. But I think that, although I wasn't a fan of it here, I think that because this movie was just so funny and so well acted and just really created a lot of interesting themes and messages in the first and second act, I think I was able to kind of like say, it's not that bad. Until, again, we get to that third act and we see the ending, and it's like, it could have had a little bit of work. But nonetheless, this is a strong debut. I just want to emphasize that. Very strong debut from B.J. Novak, and I would definitely say check this movie out. Well worth your time. And that's why, for me personally, I will be giving B.J. Novak's Vengeance a. So yeah, guys, that's my July 2022 catch-up video. Non-spoilers, again. If you guys want to know my in-depth thoughts, again, follow me on Letterboxd. The link will be down below. But, guys, what July 2022 films did you guys see for this month? Let me know down below. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, for the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.